Okay, so let's jump right into something that's always kind of bugged me. We live on this planet that's just covered in water, right? But all we ever hear about is a global water crisis. How does that even make sense? Well, that's what we're going to unpack today. Okay, pop quiz. What percentage of the Earth's surface is water? Yep, you got it, 71%. It's the number we all learned in science class. I mean, that's why we call it the blue planet, right? But here's the thing. That big blue marble, it's hiding a pretty massive secret. Which brings us to the big question. If our planet is basically this giant water balloon floating through space, why on Earth are we all so worried about running out? You know, the answer isn't about how much water there is, it's all about the kind of water. And here is the catch. Check this out. That huge, vast blue ocean you see from space, a whopping 97% of all the water on Earth is salt water. You can't drink it, you can't grow crops with it. It's pretty useless for our survival. That leaves just a tiny 3% for everything else. But wait, it gets even crazier. So let's zoom in on that little 3% slice of fresh water. You'd think, okay, we can work with that, right? Well, not so fast. Almost 80% of that is totally frozen, locked away in glaciers and ice caps. Another 20% is way deep underground as groundwater. So what does that leave for you, me, and everyone else? Just 1%. One. That's it. That tiny, tiny sliver is what all of humanity depends on. For everything. So, you gotta be asking, how is it even possible that we've survived this long on such a tiny fraction? Well, the answer is that our planet has this absolutely brilliant built-in recycling system. It's like Earth's very own water machine. You know it as the water cycle. It's this incredible, continuous loop, right? The sun heats up the oceans and lakes, that water evaporates and rises up as vapor, then it cools down, forms clouds, that's condensation, and eventually falls back to Earth as rain or snow. It's so simple, so elegant, and absolutely essential for life as we know it. But there's another player in this game that we don't always talk about. And that player is transpiration. It sounds technical, but it's pretty straightforward. Just think of plants and trees as these giant living straws. They're constantly sucking water up from the ground through their roots, and then, well, they basically breathe it back out into the air as water vapor. It's this super vital but often forgotten piece of the puzzle that helps keep our rivers and lakes full. Okay, so this amazing natural cycle has been working perfectly for millennia, sustaining all life on Earth. But now, things are changing. It's coming under some serious pressure. Our, you could say, insatiable thirst for water is pushing this really delicate system right to the edge. So where is all this water actually going? I mean, who's the biggest water guzzler on the planet? Well, take a look at this. You might be surprised. Almost 70% of all our accessible fresh water goes straight to agriculture, to growing our food. Industry takes another pretty big chunk for manufacturing things and for energy. And what about us at home? You know, our showers, doing the laundry, making coffee? It's barely a drop in the bucket in comparison. So what's behind this huge demand? Well, it's pretty much a perfect storm. We've got rapid population growth, more and more people on the planet every year. We need to produce way more food, which means our farms are expanding like crazy. And then there's the relentless march of industrialization. It's a simple formula, really. More people means more food, which means more factories. And that is a recipe for a major water crisis. Okay, so that sounds pretty serious, I know. But it is not all doom and gloom. It's not hopeless. Humans are a pretty resourceful bunch, right? When we're faced with a big challenge, we tend to innovate. So let's shift gears and look at how we're actually trying to engineer our way through this. First up is something called water reclamation. The easiest way to think about it is just giving our water a second chance. We can actually take used water from our homes, from factories, and run it through these really advanced purification systems to clean it up. Then that same water can be put right back to work for everything from watering crops to industrial processes. It's basically the ultimate recycling program. And then there's the big one, desalination. This is literally the process of turning that huge, salty ocean into fresh, drinkable water. There are a couple of main ways to do it. You've got the old school method, which is basically just boiling the seawater and collecting the fresh steam. Or you've got the really high-tech way, where we use immense pressure to force the water through these special membranes that catch all the salt. It's kind of like a magic trick, honestly, just, with a ton of science behind it. But there's always a but, isn't there? These amazing high-tech solutions have a major downside. Desalination, in particular, is an incredibly power-hungry process. I mean, it takes a ton of energy, and that makes it really expensive. So what does that mean? Well, it means it's often out of reach for the very communities who need it the most, and that just creates another divide in a world that's already struggling for resources. So if technology alone isn't going to be our silver bullet, then what's the answer? Well, part of the solution might actually be a lot simpler than we think. It's not always about making new water. It's about being way smarter with the water we already have. It all comes down to conservation. And here's the good news. This is where every single one of us can actually be part of the solution. Seriously, we're talking about the little things, the everyday habits. Taking shorter showers, maybe 5 minutes instead of 15. Only running the dishwasher or the laundry when you've got a full load. Turning off the tap when you're brushing your teeth. And for goodness sake, fixing that leaky faucet that drips all night long. These might seem like small changes, but when you multiply them by millions and millions of people, they make a world of difference. So when you put it all together, the takeaway is pretty clear, isn't it? The path forward isn't just one thing. We absolutely need that brilliant engineering and those big tech solutions. But at the same time, we need a global commitment to conservation, right down to the individual level. Think of it like a two-front battle for our most precious resource. And in that battle, every single one of us has a role to play. So I want to leave you with just one final thought to chew on. What would actually happen if that natural water cycle, the planet's lifeblood we talked about, what if it just stopped? It's a pretty chilling thought, right? But it really does drive home the incredible value of every single drop.